Man, this is a great experience that I've been looking forward to for a while. I went and looked at the website, and I saw all these high-powered gentlemen that you had speaking, and I told my wife, what in the heck would they want me to speak here after we had Travis Stice speaking, Bill Thomas, guys I know, and boy, Dallas Cowboy Pro Bowl turned A-10 fighter pilot. What the heck? That's amazing. Secretary of Commerce. Well, she said, you know what? Just tell your story. Just be you. That's why they want you here. That's why Kyle, when he met you, you were you, and talk about your journey, how you got here, and what helped you along. So that's what I'm going to do. She did say no jokes. Your jokes are poorly delivered. Typically, she says I'm the only one that laughs at them, so I can't have any jokes. I promised that to her. But so I'm excited to give my story. Growing up in the '60s, starting my own company at the age of 29, and finally learning the art of leadership, management, the art of being a good husband, good father, and a friend to everybody. And if you notice, I didn't say the art of buying a big house or fanciest Mercedes or living in the right neighborhood. You know, at age 57 now, which I am, I've concluded that the art of leadership and management and being just a good person far outweighs any material things. But like many of you in this room, I don't know if you've read the book or heard about the second half. There's a lot of people talk about the second half of your life. Yeah, the first half you learned a lot, made mistakes. Second half, all right, let's go get them, right? Well, that's where I am right now, my second half. But there's a lot of people, no matter what you say, probably a little bit younger. I gotta have that boat. I gotta have that car. And my wife, she wants us to live in this neighborhood, so we're gonna do it. And it'll be a while, but you'll come around to it, I promise. But that's more of that a little later in my discussion. So first, I want to give you a little bit of insight of my upbringing. And Japanese or Asians in this room are pretty scarce. Probably, I have this joke I told Kyle on the way here. I think I'm the only 6'2" Japanese guy in all the oil and gas business. I can bet I probably will win that bet. But my ancestry, 100% Japanese. Both my parents were born here in the United States. My grandparents immigrated here in 1910, 1911 time frame. Both my mom and dad were born in Seattle, Washington. They didn't know each other, but there was a big Japanese community there in Washington, British Columbia, that whole area for some reason. So when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in December of 1941, life for Japanese Americans changed dramatically that day. And I guess it was May of 1942, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066. And you know, this is something that's not in your history books, but what it was, this executive order was to be able to round up enemies of the United States and incarcerate without a trial. And all Japanese, Americans, or not Japanese, or not Americans, were rounded up and they were put in prisons. The Japanese were relocated off the West Coast because they figured they were spies or they were something. They were forced to sell their businesses, sell their cars, houses, whatever they had, and then just bring what they could carry. My mom and dad were grade school, very small kids at the time. And truly, I think this marked the low point of my whole family lineage of just that. They lived in these hastily built barracks, behind bars, behind fencing, guard towers, and in the most forsaken places in the interior of the United States. They were put in Minidoka, Idaho. If you were to Google Minidoka, Idaho, it's now called Pocatello. And it's potato fields now. But my dad and I one time drove out there and just imagining it was desolate, high desert at the time, but that's where they lived. So they endured this life through the end of the war, into 1945. And as you can imagine, the government goes, "Oh shit, what the heck, what did we do here? We took these people, took them away from their homes, made them sell everything, and for 4 years they had no income." Right? And what are we going to do? So they put together a sponsorship program. And people would have to sponsor families. And so my mom's folks were sponsored by a Catholic church in St. Louis. My father's folks were taken by a resort in Wisconsin. They needed a chef. My grandfather was a chef, so they needed one, and they took him, which is an amazing thing. But what was interesting is both my parents, the families were given a $20 bill and a bus ticket to where they're supposed to go. I just want you to think about this. Think about you with your grade school kid. You don't speak English very well. You're told you're going to go here. How scared would you be about your future? All the time they were rounded up, all the Japanese, they were together, they were putting a camp together, they all were there. But now, they were out and they had to go where they were told. Very scary, and I'm not sure how I would handle it. So I had a conversation with my parents when I was fairly young. I think it was grade school age. And I said, "Were you upset with the way the government treated you?" And the answer surprised me. They said, "No, we weren't upset. We were actually embarrassed by the way the country of our origin caused harm to our current country that we adopted. And the country that we adopted couldn't trust us enough, so they had to put us in prisons. And so therefore, what they were going to do is that they were going to be the very best Americans that they could be. And they were going to make us, their children, also be the very best Americans that we could be." And furthermore, they felt, and Kyle talked about Boy Scouts, and one of the things my dad particularly, my mom also, my dad particularly, said that the best thing next to military service is to be a Boy Scout, to learn leadership and the ideals of American youth. By gosh, you're going to be a Boy Scout. Okay, yeah, I'm a Boy Scout. But not only are you going to be a Boy Scout, you're going to be the best Boy Scout, so you're going to be an Eagle Scout. And back then, Japanese culture, when your father says jump, you jump. Okay, and that was the case. And so I did that, and I went on to do some things just because of the legacy of my folks. And as Kyle said, chairman of the board of St. Houston Area Council, it's a huge council, it's one of the biggest in the nation. Received the National Eagle Scout Association Outstanding Eagle Scout, and just recently the DISA, which is the Distinguished Eagle Scout, and it's the highest award that you can receive as an Eagle Scout adult. Very excited about that. But let's get back to what the expectations were on my good folks. So the expectations did not just end at Boy Scouts, and that's one of the key things. They expected me in everything to do to be the best. Now, I didn't say to do my best. I said to be the best. And that is a really hard standard. That is a very high standard in which to achieve. But it gave me the mindset that there is nothing that I can't do. I mean, I was just going to go charge in there, pick me, coach, put me in. That was the way I thought of it. There's nothing out of reach. There's nothing that cannot be achieved if I work harder and smarter, more efficiently than anybody else. And that was what the mindset I had. So, as I said, it just amazes me, but it tells me that there was some background to go from one and a half generations ago to today, starting from a $20 bill on the bus ticket to today. But I attribute everything to God's grace and His guidance. He had His hand on my mother's family to go to a Christian organization, Catholic churches in St. Louis. Then He took my mom to meet my dad, leading to Christ 15 years later. Then my sister and I were the beneficiaries of the grace of God. So going forward, I had this great foundation of all the stuff I learned as a Boy Scout and leadership and the ideals of American, and then the mindset of being the best. I was able to have a pathway to do extraordinary things. I just needed to execute. So, as I said, I started as a production engineer, TXO Production. Some of you young guys never heard of TXO Productions. The older guys go, oh, those guys, I know those guys. They had an office here in Midland for a while, right? And that was my only trip here since back in the mid-80s. So lots of things have changed since then. And so when I started as a drilling production engineer at TXO, along with companies that I had the privilege to work for or start, I was able to develop these pillars or these principles that which to build my companies around. And I can tell you what, I've made so many mistakes, and that's why these mistakes turned into, oh, this is the right way to do it. So I call these core principles my 5 pillars, the foundation in which to build your company. Number 1, give the grace to God. God gives all the glory, gets all the glory, excuse me. And I run every company that way, and I'm very, very vocal about it. Pay attention to details. There's no detail that's too small to not pay attention to. Continuously build. Just get a little better every day. And that's something that I do all the time. Be humble in your successes, because you know what? There is failure just around the corner. And set the example, probably the most important. Always set the example. So let's talk about give the glory to God. So Momentum's business plan over the past 12 years has been to use private equity. And as Kyle said, we employed about $1 billion of equity in return just over $3 billion to our investors, which has been a pretty good run. And sometimes one can get a big head from that success, me included. And I think I was able to remind myself that God has really given me this fortunate direction in life. He's given me some of the background. He brought the people that I needed to succeed and surrounded me with them. So I'm constantly reminding myself that all that we do and all that we receive out of the toils of our work is God's. And I talk frequently and openly to the employees of Momentum and Indigo both that we must remember we're not doing these things for any earthly thing or person. If you work every day for something, you'll never get that something. You'll never be satisfied. There'll always be all these things that are better. Someone builds a bigger house. Someone has a faster car. The Hellcat Dodge Charger Hellcat version has 700 horsepower now. I mean, just a year ago, if you bought a 600 horsepower car, you think, I've got it. But no, there's a 700 horsepower car now for $50,000. It's crazy. Nuts. But only God can give you the satisfaction. Only Jesus can satisfy the thirst you want so badly to be quenched. In John 4:14, Jesus says that whoever drinks the water from this well will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up to eternal life. And it's amazing. I think about that all the time, that I can lack thirst by always calling on Jesus to quench my thirst. You know, I read an interesting article just about 2 weeks ago in the Wall Street Journal. You all probably saw it. A gentleman by the name of Charles Murphy. Big spread about him. And he had everything. He had all these earthly possessions that couldn't satisfy him. I mean, he had this beautiful wife, beautiful family, a job that paid him millions of dollars a year. He lived in a 19-room mansion, limestone mansion on the Upper East Side of Manhattan for $40 or $50 million. Just the house. Dined in the finest restaurants, wore the finest clothes. He was the right-hand man for Henry Paulson, the hedge fund guy. And, always talked to Henry and said, man, I don't know, I'm worried that I don't have enough money, that I can't keep up this lifestyle. And Henry Paulson was actually interviewed with him. I couldn't believe it, because I know what we paid him. And so Murphy was so consumed with these earthly possessions that he got into a depression. And the depression got deeper and deeper, to the point where he went to the top of a 24-story building, jumped off and killed himself just 2 weeks ago, and left all his family and everything. You know, even though this guy was a multi-millionaire, he was chasing something, this lifestyle, he would have chased God. His thirst would have been quenched. And I think about that all the time. Everything we build with our hands and through our companies, and I look around here, people that are just fantastically successful, and all your abilities and all your talents and everything given to you by God. And I looked, flying over, and I couldn't believe the activity. It was like you kicked into a anthill, and just things are going all over the place here. It's fantastic. It was great. It's commerce. And there's billions of dollars of CapEx being spent out there right now. And they're being spent to drill, produce oil, shale gas. But the dollars are his dollars. The oil and the gas being produced are his oil and gas. The profits that are taken out of there will be given to you. You're ultimately the one, but it should be used according to his will. More than anything, God wants you to seek him. He wants you to seek him. And at camp, there's Kyle was talking about Camp Life. We talk about Matthew 6:33 all the time. And that is, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. That's all he's asking for. Seek his guidance. Look towards him. That wealth is yours. It was given to you. But he wants you to seek him first. Seek first. Number two, I'm not kind of running down rabbit holes. Number two, getting better every day. So at least once every other week or once every 3 weeks, I walk through all the halls of the 3 floors of the Chase Tower in downtown Houston that we occupy. I stop by every desk, every office, cubicle, whatever. And I asked the employees, how y'all doing? Getting a little bit better? And they said, getting better every day, Frank. It's just this response that we condition ourselves for. Because I said, every day we continuously strive to get better. And there's a Japanese term, and this talk isn't about Japan, but it just always seems to pop up. It's called Kaizen. Kaizen is a Japanese term that translates roughly to constant, continuous improvement. Put simply, every organization should strive to be better in everything that they do every day. You know, many years following World War II, things that came out of Japan were stamped, made in Japan, were cheap. You know, they're cheap, they're easy, made millions of them. But over time, Kaizen, this philosophy, Kaizen, permeated through all the businesses in Japan. Now, it's different. It's absolutely different. What's made in Japan is considered very precise, very reliable. Think about Nikon cameras. Think about Sony electronics. Think about Toyota. That's not cheap. That's probably not made in Japan anymore either. But the fact is that there's a complete paradigm shift. And why is that? It's because they continuously got better every day. Now, there's always been this. There was about every business school that you go to, they have a study. Why is Toyota so much better than GM? And the reason is Toyota instituted this Kaizen philosophy very early in its cycle. And at GM, U.S. workers are they're compensated what the labor union negotiates. If there's no consequence whatsoever or any pay commensurate with quality. That's the difference that they came in. Number 3, pay attention to details. This is something that came into my life very, very early in my working career. And I was told that the most important thing about a successful business is the leadership paying attention to details. I was told that if you pay attention to the smallest details, the bigger details will fall into place. Let's talk about a guy, Steve Jobs. He's not one of my favorite CEOs, but he's a great example of a CEO paying attention to details. His, though, was borderline obsessive compulsive. He would spend hours at a full staff meeting deciding how should the packaging be for their product. Now, I know a lot of people in here have Apple products. How many still have the box that the iPhone came in or your iMac came in or something like that, right? Raise your hand. You know, that's amazing. I've gotten rid of my iPhone 5 years ago, but I still have a box, and I don't know why, but you know, that's the reason is that packaging is so awesome. It's a travesty to throw it away, and so, but that's what he wanted. He wanted paying attention to detail so much as just the box it came in. People want to keep that, and it was successful. BMW, arguably the leader in automotive technology. The little ding that you hear when keys are in, the lights are on or something, they spend hundreds of hours getting the right tone of that ding. Disney World, Disneyland, Epcot Center. One of the things that they really, really work hard on is cleanliness. They have such an army making sure that every scrap of paper that's on the ground or anything is swept up almost immediately. If you go through one of those parks, it's the cleanest place you've ever been. It's a little detail that it sticks in your head, though. You always think about it. And it's truly amazing. Just got back from Augusta National Masters. Man, what a great experience. It's You walk down Magnolia Lane, looking at those magnolias, walk on hallowed ground of Augusta National. That is amazing paying attention to details. It's something that they want a great experience for not only the golfers, but the spectator. And it truly is that the case. A golfer may swing out of the greenside bunker. Sand gets on the green. Seemingly out of nowhere, two guys come with these bamboo poles and swish off all the sand. So the next golfer is not going to be bothered by the sand. Can you believe that? Can you believe? And then they disappear too. That's a detail that just is an amazing thing. There's no level is too high to pay attention. What I mean by that is, I was a direct report to Rich Kim several years back. And Rich would walk around carrying a yellow notebook, yellow legal pad. Am I doing this? Making that static? Okay. And he would write things down that people said, or what he saw. And it was amazing. The man was leading the largest MLP in the world at the time. And he would go down and he'd write these things. And if you said something, you better remember what you said, because he'll remember it, and he'll bring it out his yellow pad. But it was a fantastic example of leadership and paying attention to the small details. Okay, number 4, be humble in your success. Humility as a whole. So names like Mark Cuban, Leona Helmsley, Steve Jobs, Donald Trump. These are some big names that have all built a reputation of brash, autocratic, authoritarian style of leadership. And so in a world of such very outspoken leaders, what room is there for humility in that? As it turns out, it's absolutely essential. It's actually a component that many of those that I just read off are missing to be great leaders. That they're doing what they are because they have the ability to be autocratic versus getting full buy-in from everyone. The Harvard Business Review wrote, humility is one of the 4 critical leadership factors for creating an environment where employees are felt included. In reality, humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking less about yourself. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking less about yourself. A selfless leader should not be mistaken for a weak one. It takes tremendous courage to practice humility. Particularly in a room where you have a lot of A-type personalities here. Really hard to practice this humility. It feels like you leave yourself vulnerable. A humble leader is actually a great listener, a great tester, and a great admitter. You listen to your constituents, you listen to them, what they have to say. You test their recommendation. You don't just say, all right, put it in, forget it, we'll go on. You admit, wow, that is a great idea. I agree with that. I think that's something that you should do. If they see that, if your employees see that, they're much more liable to respect you as a leader. And the 5th one, finally, is set the example. This is my final pillar. But really, I think most important, you're setting the example every day. Your people are, your group, and your region, your area, or the company, whatever it might be, they take cues from you. You're forming a culture, your vision, your work ethic, and it's being adopted by your team. So I first became president of a fairly mid-sized midstream company in 1995. Very young executive for a company that we were moving about 100 million a day, whole bed methane gas. We grew that organically to about 750 million a day. And we're growing fast, and the worst about it then was I was a very young executive. And along the way, I just failed in so many of the final 5 pillars that I've given you. It'd take all day to explain all my failures, but I want to talk about one in particular. It was with this company, Red Cedar Gathering. We're growing. It was about 3 years into my tenure as executive. And we're having a lunch, a lot like this. And I said, before we start, I'd like to bless this meal. First time I ever said it. People stopped and looked at me like I was from Mars. And I said, so I blessed the meal. Lunch went great. A few hours later, I was in my office working. So somebody came in my office, knocked on the door. Yeah, come on in. And close the door. Uh-oh, this is not good. And he said, Mr. Tsuru, I just want to say what you did today at lunch was fine. It was great. It was really, really great to hear that. And I said, well, thank you. It's really great. He said, but you know what? All these years I've worked for you, I didn't realize you were a believer. I said, oh, yeah. I've been a believer for a long time. But you didn't show us that. We're watching. We're trying to take you from you. That second, I said, man, I've sequestered so many people from being able to show faith, to show the love of Jesus, because I wasn't out there filled with the Spirit. Every company I've had since that, well, that company, Red Cedar, since that point, grew as a Christ-centered company. And every company I've had since then has been that way. That happened 20 years ago or so. And I think about it all the time. As Kyle said, every Christmas, my wife Stephanie and I do something in honor of the employees. And water wells that we drilled, and we put a plaque on the pump that says, in honor of the employees of M3 Midstream, M5 Midstream, all different companies, Houston, Texas. Pretty cool. I'm thinking about that right now. I'm thinking that pump's going up and down right now in fresh water for these people that did not have fresh water. They would walk for miles to get some dirty ditch water in a baggie. Really? It wasn't anything to drill that well. Now they have fresh water. Did the things with paint off layaways. Just amazing. Right here at home. Right here at home. People that go to complete tears because you paid off a $200 layaway. Come on. We blow $200 on something stupid all the time. And that's what they just go to pieces on that. Last year was a great year because what we did is we were able to underwrite a Habitat for Humanity. Did the whole thing. The employees of the company were the ones that built the whole house. And independently, groups within the company said, hey, let's buy the furniture for the boys' room, the little girls' room, the master bedroom. Furnish the whole house. Washer and dryer, lawnmower. I mean, that showed me. I mean, I didn't say, all right, now, y'all get together. You got the boys' room, you got the kitchen, you got the washer and dryer, you got it? Okay. Got it. Didn't say anything. They came up and told me this is what their plan is, and we're going to unveil it on the day that we hand the keys over to the new owners. It's amazing. It was the coolest thing. Further told me, you're watching, you're setting the example. That was amazing. In Colossians 3:23, it said, work as unto the Lord and as unto men. Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward for serving the Lord Christ. God wants you to not work for praise and admiration of your fellow man, but He wants you to work to show other men the way, to be obedient, to do good works, not to display it and look at me. So these 5 pillars were been very helpful in my business career and how I also live my life. As Stephen Covey explains in his 7 Habits for Highly Successful People, you must live by your core principles. Outward influences will generate stress on your life and cause you to focus on hundreds, maybe thousands of things that take you away from your core principles. We won't talk about principle-centered life. That's another speaker. It'll take another 30 minutes. It's amazing bit of advice there. So I wanted to end with a few additional nuggets that I'd like to challenge you with. First, who here uses like a to-do list? Like every Monday you might do a to-do list. Yeah, lots, quite a few, most. You know, I did that for a while. And one thing about my to-do list is when the day was over, my to-do list was longer than it started. Even though I scratched off some things, I always did the easiest things first, you know, whatever it might be. Here's what I want to challenge you. What if you had a to-be list? A to-be list. What do you want to be? That's your roadmap for future life. A to-be list. Now think about this. So I'll give you an example. Here are a few things out of my to-be list. I want to be a godly man. Fall off that turnip truck all the time. But I pick myself up and I'll stand and say, I want to be a godly man. Every time I fall off. And God lets me get back on the truck. Number 2, I want to be a great husband. I adore my wife, and I'm going to continue to do that. Sometimes I fall short, say things, do things. You know what? It's my goal. It's what I want to be. 3, I want to be a great dad, great father to my kids. They deserve a great man leading the family. And finally, and very importantly, I want to be a great friend to all my acquaintances, something I met today. I want to be a friend and strive to love every one of you as God loves me. So, one of the things, though, I've also done, and it's a dynamic list. It's probably not as dynamic as your to-do list. Your to-do list, you never get to the end of it. It's like saying, I found the end of the internet. Well, can't do it. But your to-do list is the same way. There's always, it always adds. But your to-be list, you start putting little steps, little victories in between. I want to be the executive of my own company. I want to own my own company. Well, okay. There's a few steps you have to do between here and there. Put those steps in, you get there, you're done. Okay? So I want to be a single-digit handicap golfer. And I want actually to be a 7. So not just get to some number, something under 10. I want to be a 7 handicap. Write that down. I spend my time at the range just working on it. Working. So I can repeat that drive, that chip, go to the putting range, repeat that putting stroke over and over again so I can get to be 7. Not there yet. But that's what the purpose of a to-be list is. And I think it's a very, very important way to go forward in your life. In our questions, one of them, and I'm going to finish with this. I'm going to kind of hog it. Can I do this right now? Okay. So, the first question is, I'm just going to talk about this first question. If you were given $86,400 per day, and at the end of the day, that account would be swept and go to zero. You can't keep it, you can't bank it, you can't do anything. The next day you get 86,400 more. Now I found out some of the engineers, as I have figured this out. But if you had $86,400, what would you do with it? Just off the top of your head. Go to the homeless shelters. Help me up in Zambia. Be Kyle and I with our orphans. What else?
Compassion International.
What's that?
Compassion International.
Compassion International. What are you passionate about? What charities are you passionate about? What would you give it to? Your church? Well, there's 86,400 seconds in a day. That's 24 hours times 60 minutes times 60 seconds. 86,400. At the end of the day, it goes away. You don't have, you can't bank that. You're gonna live a certain amount of time. As you just, all these things, what would you do with your $86,400? Give it to all these, work to the church, give it to the church, give it to Compassion International, give it to whatever. Same as your time. Think about that, be a servant with your time. So, anyways, I hope I gave you a few pieces, nuggets of information. I don't know. Got to leave here with one. I think that's, my mission's done. But I hope I gave you some insight of the journey from a $20 bus ticket, $20 bill and a bus ticket to today. And I'm glad every one of you are here today. But in the words of my good friend Rex Tillerson, I had dinner with him just before he was tapped as the Secretary of State, so I can't have dinner with him anymore. But he said, you were put here. You were put here for a reason. It's not random. It's not you drive along, took a hard right, hard left, parked, got and sat down. Oh, here by random. No, it was a decision that you made to sign up, come here. You hear something. I wasn't here to listen to me, but to hear something that God said through me to you. And I want you to remember that. And that's all I have for today, and I appreciate your time.